Ladies and gentlemen, fellow viewers near and afar, I'm Theodon Gumba saying welcome to another edition of Special Guest on Cry Out Radio and Television. Before we proceed, we call upon our fans who enjoy our work to visit our website at cryoutradio.tv to get our vision. And if you like our objectives, download our app from the App Store or Play Store. Also, you can subscribe to our Cry Out Radio TV YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope to better enjoy our programming. Also, like and share with friends and family. That will be your widow's mite to make this lofty dream truly materialize. We also want to seize this medium to give a stern warning to anyone who chooses to indulge in insults instead of debate. This will result in a lifetime ban from this platform. Cry Out is an independent initiative and is by no means influenced by the federalist, restorationist, or loyalist agenda. Our programming and investigations will display no favoritism. Let this be crystal clear. On that note, Mr. Nso Foncha, Kem, we wish you a warm welcome to today's show.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And first of all, before I say anything that it's going to be taken down in the history of our revolution, I want to first salute all the brothers and sisters within the homeland that are doing a tremendous job with so much little assistance and indeed inadequate assistance coming from their fellow compatriots, brothers and sisters from the diaspora especially. So I want to thank the fortitude and the steadfastness of all the men and women who are doing to free the homeland of Amazonia. And also, this is a statement I want to make before I start this interview. If they are brave enough to fight for the liberation of Amazonia, then they are pragmatic and courageous enough to become the leadership of the new republic. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here today.
Okay. My first question to you is, who is Nso Foncha? In your own words, tell the people.
Well, I am Nso Foncha. I was born in Cuba, and I attended PS Fiango in Cuba. My father worked closely in the formation of the KNDP. As we all know, Koki never denied port. And my father was the grand financier of KNDP behind Foncha. So politics is not something, or the struggle is not something that started with me with this struggle, but I was born into the struggle. That is why my name is Foncha, because Dr. John Good Foncha, Tata as we call him, I lived with him, and he was the first person that picked me up when I came out of my mother's womb. And I know him as my second father. So this struggle has been in my family and me personally for the longest time, up till fast forward 2016 when I got in it in earnest.
Okay. As an outspoken activist with a supposed military background, what is your assessment of the situation on the ground, and what are your thoughts about activists suddenly becoming generals, colonels behind their keyboards? Isn't this disrespectful to those who have and continue to earn their stripes on the ground?
Yes, that question is a very important question. And as you can see, and the rest of the Amazonian people can see, I am not a proponent of calling myself a general. Some people have called me that, or commander. I have never called myself a commander for one simple reason. The reason being, I have not subscribed or been inscribed into any military force in any foreign country or before I left the former La République du Cameroon. But I can tell you all this. I studied military diplomacy. It is my major. War geography, it is my major. So I am more inclined in the diplomacy, the military aspect of it. I am not inclined in calling myself a general because I think one calling themselves a general or calling themselves a commander, it's in from the activities of the theater. When I say theater, I mean an actual war zone. So I am totally against remote controlling from the keyboard and calling oneself a commander. I don't subscribe to that, and I don't subscribe to chief, commander-in-chief as well, because we have not come to that stage yet in our struggle. So all military titles in the diaspora are null and void as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Foncha. So on that note, it means you don't have any military credentials, am I right? Or do you have any military credentials?
No, as I stated in my answer, I am a student of military diplomacy, which means I am an instrument to create and navigate the difficult part of the military diplomacy to bring in the assistance to the generals or to the war fighting forces within the field. And those are things that I've done within this revolution.
Okay. Now, before we go into the details of your resignation as spokesperson of the ASC, what exactly was the ASC?
Well,
Was the ASC a self-defense group?
yes, to answer your question, I will answer it in three parts. Sometime in 2017, when I came back from my European trip to try to sensitize the people about my initiative to inspire and get the young men and women within the homeland to rise up and stop the tyranny of La République du Cameroon, I formed a self-defense initiative group. Listen, it was a self-defense initiative group. If anyone can go back in March of 2017, they will see that the posters that I put out was Southern Cameroon Defense Forces launching a self-defense initiative. So I went to Washington, D.C., and that was the creation of Southern Cameroon Defense Forces, SCDF. It was an initiative to inspire the young men and women within the homeland to rise up and fight for their rights to self-determination. And that was when this armed revolution ever began. That is when the insurrection ever began. And that is when men and women in the homeland pick up all the tools to defend their communities, their families, and the integrity and sovereignty of Amazonia.
Okay. So, Mr. Foncha, who makes up the various groups under the ASC?
Okay. The second part of that question, the second part of my answer is this. The ASC was my initiative. It started as Unified Defense Command. Anybody who is on social media can go back and check it when I started calling for a Unified Defense Command. And if I go back to 2016, during the SCACUF Governing Council, which I was a member, I initiated within that council a Unified Defense Command and a National Security Agency within the SCACUF Governing Council. It was adopted with Seseko, Ufongalanfo, Dr. Karsina Nyangwe, Milana Tam. They were all present. I pushed for these things, but it was killed, maybe because they didn't like the direction where it came from. So fast forward, after they were nabbed in Nera Hotel, I started calling for a Unified Defense Command again. And a couple of comrades like Marcelo Satanga, I contacted him. And I spoke to the first person to put together this command. It was my friend and my comrade, Dr. Ayaba Lucas Cho. And we had the first meeting that included Dr. Ayaba Lucas Cho, myself, Marcelo Satanga, Mr. Cheps, Mr. Celestine. That was the first ever meeting for the Unified Defense Command that morphed into the ASC. And the issue here is the ASC, my intention and the intention of all the forces that came together was not to make the ANC a self-defense initiative or group that is aligned only to the IG as it's been hijacked today. It was for all Ambazonians to come together, irrespective of their political spectrum, to come together and support the men and women on the ground, in ground zero, that are fighting to liberate the homeland and to secure our territory.
Okay.
If that answers the question.
Yes. And on that note, then, what was its relationship with the IG?
Now, when I went to Washington, D.C., after finally Mr. Sako Samuel of the political wing of this struggle, the IG, called for the defense forces to come to Washington, D.C. so we can launch the ASC. The night I arrived in Washington, D.C., that's the night I realized that I was very disappointed that my comrade, Dr. Ayabas Cho, and Dr. Akwanga will not be coming. The conclave, it was very clear and understood that has absolutely no links or patronage from a particular political organization. It was accepted in the resolution. And the ASC, the collaboration of all the defense groups, is open to all political factions, from AGC to the IG to SCYL to Maurice to ROA. That was the agreement. It later became a situation where one political faction, the IG, is trying to hijack the ASC to become a surrogate defense wing of the IG when the IG had no defense wing. So the IG wanted to use the ASC, hijack the plans of the ASC for the ASC to become a military wing of the IG. That was not the agreement in Washington, D.C. I want anybody watching this to quote me wrong on that. I have those resolutions.
Okay. It is said by some of your former collaborators in the IG that you were dismissed. The question is, did you resign after your dismissal, or what exactly happened?
That's a good question. And our revolution has been that of social media information peddling, which I think has caused us more harm and delay than pushing us forward. Now, I was never dismissed as the spokesperson of the IG of the ASC. And the second part of that, I have never been a member of this current IG. I was an executive member in the Skakup Governing Council, and the fourth conclave under Seseko Julius Tabe was to be, that is where I was supposed to come in to the IG as the defense secretary. On my way to Nigeria and the fourth conclave, I have the invitations here, and I know all those who were invited, and none of the current IG leadership was invited in that conclave. I fell sick in Italy, and I decided to fly back home. I did not attend that fourth conclave. That was a result of General XXXX, as we all know it. So, I have not been a member of this current IG under Mr. Samuel Sako, and my only relationship with this current IG was to collaborate with all the defense forces and work within a defined framework with all political factions, including the IG. So the IG has no right to dismiss somebody from the ASC, and ASC collaborators cannot become IG surrogates or IG members. So I want to dispel and debunk that notion that I was fired.
Okay.
During our ASC deliberations, we had communications like any other defense initiative. And my job was to come out and put those informations out, while I still maintain my leadership role from the faction that I came in, that was SCDF, Southern Cameroon Defense Forces. You cannot fire somebody who came for collaboration.
Okay.
When somebody comes in for collaboration, they can either withdraw from the collaboration. You don't fire people who come into collaboration. So I just want to make that very clear.
Okay.
I resigned because of the differences that we have within the ASC and seeing the direction where the ASC is going and the miscalculation of the ANC and let itself to be hijacked by one single political faction, the IG.
Okay.
If that answers the question.
Mr. Foncha, from the horse's own mouth, what exactly happened when you announced Mayor Patrick Esunga Ekema's arrest?
Well, now we have to take things into context. And the first context that day, I was giving a serious statement concerning AGC removing their commander, Ivo, and bringing them into a territory where our forces were. That was Teke. So I was sending a plea, a rigorous plea to the people of the ADF to withdraw their forces from that territory that they have come in without informing us. Because if you have forces, a large amount of forces in an area, and none of the forces want to come into that area to install themselves, they must send you a signal that they are coming in there. We are all brothers. They can stay. But they came in the heat of the night and installed themselves. I was talking about that day. So I was not the one who came up with the information about Mayor Patrick Ekema. And that evening, before I came up with that announcement, the same information has gone to Scan Radio. And Chris Ano of the IG, the communication secretary, had already broadcasted on Scan Radio that information because it was handed down by an informant from the governor's office who speak to us. But unfortunately, that message that actually came from Chris Ano was a faulty intelligence. And we don't know what happened during that supposed arrest and information of Mayor Patrick Ekema. Because we have to understand, and Ambazonians have to understand one thing. Even when the United States went into Iraq, it's not one, but 2 or 3 times they announced the capture of Saddam Hussein. But it was faulty intelligence. Militaries all over the world do have faulty intelligence. Even the Syrian jet, the Russian jet that was shot down in Syria, it was announced by the Israeli that it was faulty intelligence. So Ambazonians cannot take one simple faulty intelligence and make it a statement to cast a shadow over intelligence failure. So, as I say, that statement was broadcast by Chris Ano before ever I said it on air the night I was making a statement about the ADF coming to launch in the territory without advising us of their coming in there. So if that answers the question.
Our inside sources says it was a setup by Chris Ano because he felt like you were a threat. We don't know how true that is, but Do you know anything as such? And do you believe you are a threat to Chris Anu?
Honestly speaking, uh, I will not confirm or I will not deny, rather, because I was on the phone with my deputy after that visceral speech concerning ADF launching in Turkey. And once I finished, it was a heated statement. My deputy had a call. Yingfu Sangong had a call. And this call came from an informant that is tied to Chris Anwanda. They instructed my deputy that this is what is going down on the ground. I had no knowledge of it. And my deputy immediately told me that this is the information that just coming and it will be okay for you to go on air because the sources are great. So the reason why I cannot confirm or deny because that call probably was set up or probably was not set up by Chris Anu to come to me because I was already on air. But that call was already made and the announcement was already made by Chris Anu on Scan Radio. And immediately when the fallout came, the first call that I had within the council was Chris Anu, who said Foncha has taken one for the cause. So
okay,
anybody can interpret that in any way, any form that they want to interpret what he said to me.
Okay. Mr. Foncha, one activist, Yannick Sikot, claimed that you worked with almost $15,000 in relation to the issue of Mayor Patrick Ekema, meaning that when your guys got Patrick Ekema, he bribed his way. So you made away with almost $15,000. How is that?
Well, that is an absolute false and a fantastic lie, if I may use that word. You know, the reason is because in this struggle for the liberation of Ambazonia, I have not, I can equivocally say this, Ambazonians, I, Foncha, have never embezzled any dime, but rather invested my own dime in this struggle. I have a long list of inquiries of people that have done such, but myself, I have not. So, what Yannick Sikot is claiming is an absolute false because the guys that were supposed to have arrested Ekema were not even my guys, based on the call that Yingfu Sangong got from the informant who was supposed to be linked to Chris Anu in the governor's office. Because they wanted to take the glory. But as I said, I can't confirm or deny the arrest of Ekema and the message that came from Chris Anu, if Chris Anu is the one who actually did the setup. But it's unfortunate for Ambazonians to make such claims because if Ekema did pay the money, I don't know. I have no idea. And this is the first time I'm hearing such a fantastic news. So it's false.
Okay. How much did you actually receive from John Egiawan to fund the ASC or any other person within the IG for self-defense materials and logistics?
Okay, I will start first with this. These reasons I'm about to give, they are very important. I want Ambazonians to listen very carefully. When all the self-defense groups came together in collaboration in Washington, D.C., I, Foncha, I was the one who pushed an initiative within the conclave, and that was accepted, that the ASC should not create an additional financial mechanism, but the ASC should concentrate on helping our boys and women on ground zero who are fighting for our liberation, which means Ambazonians have already given a lot of contributions to the IG, and Ambazonians have already paid to create financial mechanisms within the IG. So the IG should be the one responsible to collect any type of monies from the Ambazonan people and funnel it back to the ASC for the ASC to funnel this money or these revenues back to the ground, like any other defense faction. If AGC would have been part of the defense initiative, the ASC, or SCYL would have been part of it, or Morris, that's exactly what we accepted. They will collect the monies and they will funnel it to the ground or through the ASC, which one is more suitable. So now, since the IG was the only faction on board, defense political faction on board, John Egiwa was the liaison between the ASC and the IG. So any type of financial requests that the ASC made, Mr. John Egiwa was the one who was supposed to take that financial initiative, financial request, pass it over to the IG, and the IG now will fund the initiative. So for starters, every single one dime that came for defense had to go through Mr. John Egiwa.
Okay, so
and the first sum of money that was distributed among the defense factions came to us directly, the commanders, the Tigers, SCDF, ARA. And this money was dispatched back on the ground to help our fighting men and women to protect life and property. And all the receipts were later sent back to the ASC chairman. And even the IG requested for such receipts, and those receipts, if it was with the ASC chairman, it went back to the IG. So there was no complaint whatsoever. That was the first time that monies were ever disbursed, and that is how it went. But after that, no single person within the ASC ever received money directly from their hands. All the monies was managed by the chairman and Mr. John Egiwa. And with that, that is where the financial problems and financial misappropriation of all the donations that were supposed to fund my trip to Boya began. If that answers your question.
Not really. So what you're trying to say is no amount of cash, no money came into your hands, either from John Egiwa after the money being released by the treasury of the IG. You never had any monies that came to your hand?
No, I said yes. The first distribution came to Tigers.
How much?
The Tiger leader, who was Martin Cho. It went to Chris Bongam and Celestine for the ARA. It came to SCDF, which was, I was a collaborator, the chief for the SCDF. And these monies were supposed to be dispatched immediately to the ground, and the receipts were supposed to be turned in back into the ASC.
How much money?
And all these receipts were turned in. And that was the only time that we ever dealt with money, because the council later decided that the monies will be going directly to the ground, which means Mr. Johnny Giwang now and the chairman were the one responsible to send monies directly to the coordinators on the ground, not in our hands, the commanders within the ASC anymore.
How much money was that? The amount?
The monies that were shared among the collaborators were 8,000 apiece, 8,000 US dollars. And those receipts were furnished back to the chairman. And I still have all those receipts plus more.
Can you let the people know how much of that $8,000 you received, and who else received money within that the ASC from that $8,000 and their amount?
No, all the collaborated forces received the 8,000. That was ARA had the 8, SCDF had the 8, Tigers had the 8. That's how it went. Okay. And now those monies were sent down to the coordinators immediately, and the receipts, which I still have them in my phone, was turned in to the chairman. The chairman requested those receipts, and those receipts went back to the council. I still have the receipts on my phone. So all those who are making claims that monies were transferred back and forth from the IG to the various commanders. That is not so. It had to go through the liaison, which is Mr. John Egiwan. He knows this figure
Mr.
very
Foncha,
well.
you received
Yes.
$8,000 and you have receipts. Did you send
Correct.
the money directly to Ground Zero? The reason
Yes,
is
the money went. For
hold on, Mr.
security
Foncha.
reasons.
We investigate truth, and it is our wish that those guys who fight for this cause, they should
Yes.
be the ones to control this revolution and not people
Correct.
sitting in their homes enjoying luxurious lives. So we
Correct.
have taken it upon ourselves that we're going to investigate to the core. And those
Yes.
that we feel that they don't want to come out and talk, will follow up and prosecute. So it's no joke.
Correct.
I would like you to provide us the receipts that you have related to the $8,000 that we can check. We're not going to put it out there in public because we understand that
Correct.
some of these things are classified
Security
information. But that just makes us understand that you have cleared your name. Now, let me move to the next question. There are also reports that you reached out to some childhood friends requesting cash donations towards your self-defense initiative. That you even threatened to destroy their property if they didn't act accordingly. Did you and the ASC collaborate with some IG members to indulge in an arrest for ransom scheme?
Well, I can say this with all certainty.
I can't hear you well.
I can say this with all certainty. I did not call my childhood friends requesting for them to give me money for my defense initiative. The fighters on the ground, out of misery, they send informations out that they need support because the support was not forthcoming. And this came out of frustration. The first time this thing started happening, it's when monies were given to buy materials, especially in Munyenge, in Fako. And Mr. John Egiwan decided to take it upon himself to facilitate this project that was supposed to be discussed by all of us, the collaborators within the ASC. And this money was embezzled by somebody on the ground, as we use the term 419. And this money disappeared, and the guys never had the materials. And there was fighting raging in Munyenge. That is when the fighters got frustrated. They themselves now, lack of materials, they started sending information that they want to do this, they want to do that. So I was instead the one warning all Ambazonians, especially my childhood friends, that these guys on the ground, they are so desperate, and this is the type of information they are putting out there. So I was instead warning. I did not tell them to do this, and this was not something that was planned within the ASC or within the IG. It was an information coming out of the ground from desperation, from misappropriation of monies from materials during the Munyenge fight.
Okay.
Then I came out and I was sending this message warning people that I know that this is what is going on, and these guys are frustrated on the ground because they lack the materials and some of the materials that was supposed to be disbursed to them, and they were waiting at locations and points to pick up these materials. Behold, this money was swindled or 419, and John Egiwan has to answer for that, which up to today he has not really answered.
Okay, due to time constraint, we want the name. Who is the person, the name of the person that swindled the money that you said it was 419? What's the name?
Well, actually, I don't remember the name, but Mr. John Egiwan will accept that he was the one who channeled these monies to this guy and was doing all the arrangement, as he has taken upon himself to be a one-man actor to go around channeling, trying to look for materials for himself. So every single penny that is missing for materials, I think we have to ask that question to John, because he's the one who
so he said,
back and forth.
Mr. John Egiawan said he sent money, but the person that he sent the money to dashed away with the money.
Never delivered the materials, and this is the Munyege fight, and the fighters on the ground
We'll get to Mr. John Egiawan, and viewers, for your information, we've tried to reach out to Mr. John Egiawan, and he does not respond. or sending messages. We'll get back to that. But Mr. Foncha, I want to tell you that you lied. I know two of your childhood friends in Houston that you contacted them. Fortunately, I was there at one occasion when you did make that call that they have to contribute. I will not hold you on to that. Let me assume that it was a joke. But you just said that that never happened. You were just trying to warn them. Now, I will move to the next. You said in your brief video that you were going to dissect the misappropriation of funds by the IG. What do the people need to know? There is a huge push for accountability. So your response is very crucial, and the people will want to hear from you.
Well, now, with the question of funds, we went to Washington, D.C., and as I said earlier in my opening statement, the ASC was not to be involved in any financial activities. The ASC was a collaboration platform for all defense factions to come together and all political factions also to come together and assist the ANC so the ANC can advise and direct operations on the ground and bring all our boys, all our girls who are fighting to come together and fight as one people. That was the plan. But since the other political factions were not on board, the IG was the one that was there, and Mr. Sako himself said he will launch a program to generate such funds, which is my trip to Boya. That is the first time I heard about it when I was in Washington, D.C. So, fast forward, when IG started this my trip to Boya, they were raising funds. But the goal of these funds was to help prevent the killing and destruction of our people on the ground by supplying the necessary tools to prevent such barbaric activities by the public. Interruption there. I'm sorry. Somebody trying to call because I'm using the phone. So what happened was this. The IG was called and summoned by the ASC to release all the financial reports concerning this my trip to Boya and the funds and how much money they have raised. But from the first day that this inquiry was made up till today, and when I decided to resign from the ASC, from the spokesperson first, then to the ASC, resigned completely, pull out my collaboration from the ASC because you can't resign. I just pull my collaboration out. The IG Secretary of Commerce and Industry and the people in charge of this my trip to Boya have never, ever given an accountability how much money they have collected from this scheme of my trip to Boya, to the ASC and all the collaboration members. Because remember, it was due to this collaboration that Ambazonians saw that it's great and people should contribute to this my trip to Boya because the ASC is trying to bring the defense forces together. So it was the responsibility for the IG to tell us how much money they have contributed, but they never shared that with us. Instead, we are getting information from the back door from certain members of Restoration Council that they have collected $800,000 to $900,000, $700,000 to $1 million, but they never accepted or showed us any document, even if we insisted. I insisted several times. Different members within the AAC insisted to see this, but they never showed us this figure. So if they collected $700,000, and if they collected $1 million, or even if they collected $500,000, and the ASC, from the time I was there until I left, is only responsible and accepted that only $130,000 has been given to the ASC out of the sum that the IG collected. So where is the rest of the money? Those are the explanations that created this misappropriation that some of us are willing to walk away from such an organization, or from such an organization like the IG, that is willing not to be transparent with the people that came together in the first place to give them the authority to go and ask the Ambazonan people money. So this misappropriation is huge, because if they have raised anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million, and the ASC, even the chairman himself, they have accepted that only 130,000 has come to this ASC, and out of 800,000 or $1 million that they have collected, the first disbursement that any of the three commanders from the Tigers, that was Martin Cho, myself from SCDF, and Chris Bongam from ARA, have received was $8,000, and the rest of this 130,000 or 100,000 or whatever it might be, a little over 100,000, passed through John Egiwan to the ASC and managed by the chairman, the vice chairman, and the logistic team. So where is the rest of the money that the IG collected? That is what they have refused to tell us, and that is why, for such reasons, I decided that I cannot be in such an organization or work in a defined framework with the IG, because they are not transparent enough with how much monies they have collected from the Ambazonan people, because especially the ASC that gave them the authority, gave them the recognition.
Thank you.
They should have been upfront with us and tell us exactly how much money they have collected, because honestly, I don't have a clue.
Okay. Can you confirm that the ASC has been officially dissolved and maybe repackaged into the AMC with the backing of Yingfu Sangong? If so, what exactly is the AMC?
Well, there are two different things there we are talking about. The ASC has been hijacked by the IG as a political wing, in as much as various defense groups came to form a collaboration platform to work. And this platform invites all political factions to come in to work with the ASC. But the IG has hijacked it as a defense wing. It's not true. So in the process of that, this mechanization cooked up by Mr. Sako, Chris Ano, and the rest within the IG, and John Egiwang especially, they created
all three
a
pastors
scheme. It's very important people know this. And what they did was, they tried to break down the different groups that came into ASC to create this collaboration platform that just bring in people who can be subservient to them and call, because these are people that John Egiwan, the chairman, and the IG went ahead and they were bribing commanders on the ground that I know one personally, bribing them, buying their loyalty, and bringing them into ASC when they were not there in the collaboration platform, to create a new structure within the ASC that is going to push out slowly the main defense groups that came together to get the collaboration. And now the IG will totally own the ASC as a defense platform under the IG and bring in these keyboard commanders that will be remote controlling the forces on the ground, which means, in other words, they use a mechanism to try to hijack the forces on the ground from the various defense forces and put them under Sako somewhere as an arm of the IG. This is wrong and this is false, and that is why the fighters on the ground, after all this disappointment, decided out of their own initiative. Because remember, I have pulled out myself from the ASC, which means the forces that were behind us have been pulled out. So, if you take a commander from somewhere that was not part of those forces and put them in the ASC, that they command those forces, that one collaboration platform came in into the ASC to form, you are creating a keyboard commander in the diaspora to take ghost forces on the ground. And because of this situation, how do you send money to ghost forces without misappropriation? I want people to open their ears very well. This is all connected. So the fighters on the ground decided to create a council on the ground that is not a group, which is the AMC. And remember, we advise our guys on the ground. They take the advice, they listen to it, the whole meetings, and decided that, okay, in order for this misappropriation to stop, in order for political factions in the diaspora to collect monies and swindle this money, it will be better for the Amazonians to directly themselves, even if it's individuals, to send these funds to the ground to protect life and property. So that is how the AMC came to be. It's out of advice from us that, and as my statement again, when I opened this show was, if they are brave enough to fight for us, they are courageous enough to be the leadership of the First Republic. That has implications, which means my pull out from the ASC, Yingfu also pulled out because he's my deputy, which means we are transferring all the powers to the ground. And all of our powers has to be on the ground with the fighters on the ground, the commanders on the ground, and that council now is called the AMC. I am not a leadership. I'm not within the leadership of the AMC. I am not a commander. Likewise, my deputy, Yingfu Sango. But I can advise the AMC on the ground like an advisor. Okay. So they can stay within the confines of the Geneva Convention and international law as they prosecute their war on the ground. So all the authority and leadership of this AMC is out of desperations from the fighters on the ground and the misappropriation of funds by the IG. They decided to create this mechanism that people will assist them directly instead of giving money to political factions that uses this money for something else other than helping them on the ground. So Mr. Yingfu Sangong is not a commander like myself. It's not a member of the AMC, but we can advise them like I am ready to advise any group on the ground that seek my advice to keep them on the straight and narrow so they can be within the confines of Geneva Convention and international law.
Okay, Mr. Foncha, so you're an advisor. And who are these people? Who are the leaderships of the people that lead the AMC on the ground?
The AMC on the ground is led by commanders already that are within the different forces on the ground. Now, for security reasons, I will not come and be calling people's names.
Don't release names.
Yeah.
Don't release any names because these are guys that are on the ground. I don't want you to release their names. Let me move to my next question. You were obviously close to Julius Ayoktabe. What do you know or have to say about the events of Nera Hotel in Abuja? And what are your personal thoughts about Julius Ayoktabe? You know, this is a 1-hour show. We need to start, rounding up, so we cannot make it exceed an hour.
Seseko Julius Ayoktabe, I was very close to him, and we had telephone calls regularly. We shared information. We shared ideas. When it comes to seeking advice, he will call me sometimes. Sometimes when I say something, he will call me and try to correct me as an elder person to me. And, his presence was very impactful to me. And from my observation, and let me put this out there first. If I would have made that trip to the Fort Conclave, I would have been one of those who would have been adopted in Nera Hotel. Even Comrade Sako, was not invited to the Fort Conclave. I was. Comrade Chris Anu was not invited. They just show up there. I was. it was the conclave to decide to create the interim government, and I was scheduled to be part of that interim government under Secretary Julius before they were nabbed. But from my understanding, I am on a 50-50 assumption that they are alive or they are dead. That's my personal assumption. It's 50-50 at this point. Because I think there were some persons on the ground in Nigeria, especially some of the Nigerian illegal forces, like the Niger Delta commanders, that were involved in this scheme of their kidnapping. This might be a little too sensitive to talk about because it might create a little bit of consternation. But these illegal forces on the ground were working with some Ambazonians and also with La Republic that nabbed them. So, why I say 50-50 is this. If it was the illegal forces in the Niger Delta, then probabilities are they are dead. If it was not, then it was the Nigerian government that handed them to La Republic. Probabilities are they are alive. So that is where I stand. And until I can actually confirm visibly that they are alive, I will presume they might have been killed.
Okay. Now, this is just social media stuff. This question, it is alleged that you got Kalesh Bongo of the IG pregnant. Fact or fiction?
Fiction, fantastic fiction. I don't have nothing to do with such nonsense, and it's so fantastic that it's beyond words. So fiction.
Okay. What suggestions do you have to make to pave a better path to success for the struggle?
At this point in time, the trajectory to win this struggle is going to lie on one direction and one direction only. Anybody in the diaspora who is trying to leverage political authority without a recognized state of Ambazonia over the fighting forces that are protecting life within Ambazonia, they should be considered as frauds. But any political faction or any persons in the diaspora who are willing, openly willing, like how myself I have made clear on this show, and how my deputy Yunfu Sango have made clear as well, that they are voluntarily stepping aside, claiming any leadership role, calling themselves commanders or commanders in chiefs, but just become an advisor and empower the people on the ground to take leadership of this struggle. Those are the leaders in the diaspora that we are looking for. We don't want to bestow leadership position from presidents to interim presidents to chief of staff to all this with people in the diaspora. We in America, and I as an American, I will say this. My duty as an American is to fight injustice wherever injustice prevails in this world. So I take that upon myself to fight injustice that is prevailing within the homeland of my birth. But with that said, I cannot be in the leadership of such revolution, but inspire the brothers and sisters that I've left behind in Ambazonia to take up the mantle and teach them the leadership skills that I've come to acquire within this United States of America. So that is why I call myself an emissary and an advisor, and I will employ all our political faction leaders from Bo Herbert to Mr. Sako, to Mr. Ayaba, to Mr. Kwanga, to relinquish such titles and join me to empower and transfer all the power of this revolution to the forces on the ground, which means to the forces within the Federal Republic of Amazonia. Anybody in the diaspora who claim otherwise, I will call them a fraud to benefit somehow from their political authority over the guys on the ground, and also to seek financial benefit in this struggle.
Okay. Mr. Foncha, when you were member of the IG, or I won't say member of the IG, within the ASC, it is alleged, we have information that a few people within the IG created a non-profit organization as a means to siphon money, or let's say as a means to be able to wire money for self-defense in Ground Zero. Are you aware of this non-profit?
I am aware of it, but I don't know of it because I'm not a signature to it and they don't tell us this thing. I was aware of it because also from a third-party information and a reliable source for that matter. And these NGOs were formed. So as I can clearly tell Ambazonians today, the IG is not an interim government. It's an NGO. Because interim governments don't form NGOs to do financial transactions. I hope Ambazonians are listening carefully to me. If you are a political faction in the diaspora and you are creating an NGO to use as a financial instrument, what makes you then? An NGO or a government? So to answer your question very clearly, and also for Ambazonians to start getting some level of political maturity, how these things work, the IG has not been recognized by any foreign entity as an interim government of Amazonia, for starters. So the IG will likely operate as an NGO. And I don't know how many such several NGOs they have. And within this United States of America, when you start having these NGOs and foundations and doing financial operations, you have certain financial limits. So I'm also suspecting that some of the monies that Ambazonian people have given to this IG also have been confiscated or blocked in accounts that are unauthorized to do such transactions. So misappropriations and the lack of financial regulations and financial laws of this country also has affected this revolution and also has culminated in the loss of enormous financial resources of the Ambazonian people by this current IG leadership. And those are the reasons why I can sincerely, in the bottom of my heart, say I have a vote of no confidence for the current IG leadership. The organization itself, under Seseko Tabe Julius, can stay, but the leadership must go. As we say, don't kill the party, change the leadership.
Okay, Mr. Foncha, one thing you should understand is regardless of any government acknowledging or going behind this interim government, the people in Ground Zero seems to love the interim government. The only problem is the leadership of the government. I, for one, think that certain people like Sako should not even be there because they are not doing what they're supposed to do. Apparently, it has become a mafia of pastors. We'll come to that. But another message I'm sending out to them is I've reached out to Brado, and he is trying to follow hierarchy, and I'm giving them some time to do my proper investigations. There's been a lot of flaws, like you said, based on these non-profits, and there are laws that they've breached. They should be very careful because if I don't get what I want as facts for the people, then I will go to those people that have reached out to me, and I'll give them proper advice on how they're going to follow up with all these monies that they have swindled, that they have siphoned. It's just a message. Whatever information that they have that they believe is classified, I will not put it out there as long as they can bring out facts. Now, let's move on to another question. We've had questions from our viewers, our audience, a lot of people sending their questions. Some of them decided that they want to be anonymous. So we'll put them on anonymous, but again, we'll give credit to a few people. I think just one person wanted us to, he didn't bother that we should give his name. That's Mr. Brugger Michael. He's in Sweden. Now, we're already running out of time. We're going now to receive some questions from our audience. At this point in time, the questions that we're going to receive from our audience, we don't know at this time the hundreds of questions that we have. We are not going to repeat, so it's going to be randomly picked by the producer, and when it gets on the screen, I will ask the question. So if we don't have your question, please don't feel like we're being biased. We just don't know how many questions are out there. And you can send your questions to our email, and then we'll still be able to channel that question to Mr. Foncha. He says he's going to send us the information that he has based on the $8,000. So we are actually doing this for the people. We believe that power should go back to ground zero. Now, our first question is, who is sponsoring AMC, Mr. Foncha?
Okay, first of all, before I answer that question,
please be very brief so we can take as many questions as possible.
You made a very important point. You made a very important point. Let me be very brief. Every single body in the IG leadership now, from John Igiwan to Chris Anu and to Bishop Ebenezer and all those people, they are all pastors, and these people are jobless people. I'm a businessman, first of all. I generate my own income to take care of myself and my family. So I don't see no need to take the people's money. I was not jobless before I came into this struggle, and I'm not jobless now. But these people from Sako to Chris Anu, they are all pastors, and they have turned this revolution into a theocracy. Let me start with the questions.
Okay.
Now,
we understand. We know that Chris Anu lives in Houston, and I know he was jobless until this. He could not even put gas in his car. So that it's something that I know it's a fact. Now, who is the head of the Tigers? Well, I don't think you should give out information or names here. Viewers, please, I think there are questions that people are asking that should be sensitive. We don't even know if that's somebody from the La Republique trying to find out information. We're not going to entertain certain information. Even though
the first question was
we'll keep
AMC.
Facts. Who sponsors
Who
the AMC?
Who is sponsoring the AMC? I think that's very important.
Yes.
Because the AMC was formed, and the IG and the ASC saw the AMC on the ground as a threat, because the power is going to be given to them, and the IG going to lose their leadership role because everything is going to happen in ground zero. The IG openly sent a statement and said that they would never fund the AMC. But remember, the AMC are not Nigerians. They are not Ghanaians. They are Amazonians. So if the IG collect money from the Amazonian people, it's their obligation to help every single defense group on the ground, even if it's ADF, even if it's SOCADEF, because this money belongs to all the people of Amazonia, if the Amazonian people are giving it. But they have said they're not going to fund the AMC because the AMC want to take power. How can you refuse the people on the ground not to take power when they're on the ground and we are in the diaspora? So the AMC right now has no funding. The AMC is on a military diplomatic push to get external assistance from different entities out. And also the population on the ground, they are the ones feeding the fighters and the people that are running the AMC on the ground. It's not the diaspora. But the AMC have requested that if the diasporas want to help them, they should not give a one red kobo to the ASC or to the IG. They should send it directly to the various commanders on the ground.
Thank you. Time constraint. The next question from Congo Mega. Give 5 reasons why Sako must go. 5. Just 5 reasons. Fast, please.
One of the reasons is this. Sako has no political maturity. Sako is taking the IG and turning it into a theocracy. If people don't know what a theocracy is, it's like Iran. Everybody there is a bishop. Jobless bishops. Number 2, his critical thinking, politically, it's not sound enough. Number 4, Sako, as the interim president of the IG, has not made one single diplomatic initiative out of this United States with a foreign entity that I know of. I was in the ASC. No single one. The only initiative that Sako has always brought to us is about looking for ways for fundraising galas, my trip to Boya, and now they have the new thing that's about to come up, county by county, LGA, Ambazonians beware. Funding has to go directly on the ground. If such mechanisms on the ground is not conducive, wait with your money until when it's conducive to send directly to the people who are dutying on the ground and not to any political faction out in the diaspora. Let them look for jobs and let them advise the structure on the ground. So those are the reasons why I want this leadership to resign and the vote of no confidence to the IG leadership presently.
Okay. The next question is from Jenna King Jr., which I think you already answered, but I'll just throw it out there fast. Mr. Foncha, are you an army in the USA or a security guard?
I have never worked as a security guard before, and I've never been inscribed or conscribed in any foreign army.
Yes,
and even
you did
within
say that.
La Republique of Cameroon. But I am a student of military diplomacy. Okay. I read military diplomacy. That is why people like us can be sent to speak in defense initiative forums like the one I did in England.
Well, I think you already answered. Please, viewers, these are questions that I already asked Mr. Foncha. Somebody is saying that why did you collect money from Ekema and release Ekema? I think we already talked about that. Why did Nso Foncha lie? His forces arrested Ekema. I think you already answered that. Next question, please. Who collected 8,000 for the Tigers?
It was I don't want Mr. Cho. I don't want to call Mr. Martin, who was with the Tiger, and Mr. Martin was the first one to pull out his collaboration from the ASC and form the Tiger One. Remember this, Ambazona should remember that. So there are two Tigers now. You have Tigers and Tiger One. The Tiger One now, the commander was the original commander that was in the ASC, and after the IG hijacked and stopped funding the troops on the ground and they wanted to do all the financial transactions, that is when Mr. Martin pulled out from there. And so Mr. John Egiwan and and the rest of them, they had what they call the Tiger Council. They took over from there. So that's when you had the Tiger split.
Okay, so you said there is Tiger and Tiger One, and the person that formed Tiger, Mr. Martin, what's the other name?
No. Mr. Martin, I don't want to give last names here. Mr. Martin was the original Tigers.
Yes.
So when the IG decided to hijack and try to squash the collaboration and make it an arm of the defense wing, he was the first one, as you can tell from Capo Daniel's platform and from Bagbarata, when he put up his withdrawal letter from the ASC. I don't know if you remember that. He withdrew. And when he withdrew, the Tigers now stayed in the ASC under the tutelage of John Egiwan, who says he was part of the Tiger Council and brought a new commander on the Tiger for the Tigers.
Okay.
But Mr. Martin has already pulled out.
Next question. That was from Grace Jelly. From Luis Eugene Bakai Elanga. Does Sako have a resident permit? I think you don't need to answer that. We're going now into personal or immigration issues. Please, next question. Mr. Luis, we're sorry. And this is from Mafo Jacqueline. When you were in the IG, you never said anything about this. So why now? Please.
Well, as I said again, I have never been part of the IG.
Yes.
I was in the Skakuf Governing Council, and I was invited to go to the fourth conclave in Nigeria to be part of the IG under Seseko Julius Tabe, and I fell ill in Europe, and I made a retreat back home. Okay. So I never became part of the IG.
Okay.
So now, I've not been part of the IG, please.
Redemption Son. Has Foncha ever been to Ground Zero?
Well, those are information that you cannot put out there. That's very sensitive information.
Okay. Next question. That's JB Webster. Foncha, can you meet Ayaba and work something out so y'all can manage defense on the ground? while IG and others should focus on diplomacy?
Mr. Ayaba is a comrade that we've been speaking, and we have constructive conversations before. And even this ASC, the first person that was called was Mr. Ayaba. I don't have any problem with Mr. Ayaba. Now, Mr. Ayaba has AGC, which is also a different a political platform like the IG. So we cannot say Mr. Ayaba should work only on the ground forces and don't also work on the diplomacy side. Instead, I think every single one in the diaspora should empower the ground forces to take control of the defense side. And we become advisors on the diplomacy side. Diaspora can only do diplomacy. Diaspora cannot fight wars behind keyboards. This is what we call WhatsApp commanders and Facebook commanders. People have been calling me that. I've never called myself a commander of forces on the ground. I've always advised. So this question goes back to the person who asked the question. Mr. Ayaba is doing a great job in the political diplomacy. The IG can engage in political diplomacy. I can engage in political diplomacy. But fighting on the ground has to be handed to the AMC, which is a collaboration of all the defense groups on the ground. Some of them, they are even afraid to talk that they are part of the AMC because they think if they say that, the political factions, whether it be AGC or IG, will stop giving them the little granite money that they are giving them, the little change, while they embezzle the vast majority and put in their bank accounts to pay their light bills and to take care of themselves because they are jobless.
Okay. The next question is from Abu Free. Ask him, what he did with the money from Ambomu Life?
Yes, I can certainly answer that very well. And when this struggle started, when I launched SCDF, not under SCDF, under SCDF, not under ASC, Abombo Life was making contributions to the various defense platforms. And this is not ASC. That was way back in 2016, when we were still in the first phase of the revolution. And they were given to all the defense groups, from AGC to Tigers. So now, Abombo Life sent $2,982, if I'm not mistaken, the exact cents. And this money was tied up because it was sent into a wrong via account. The money could not be collected. But unfortunately, I worked with the bank and the money was collected, and I immediately sent a letter of acknowledgement that this money was received, and this money was sent directly to the ground. And this was in the first phase in 2016, when we're still in that Bonnie issue. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know how to put it. I don't want to come down and just
Mr.
say, all right. So this went to the ground.
Mr. Foncha, so now that brings us to accountability of the 8,000 plus this 2,000 that you said, you have all your paperwork. Thanks. We thank Abu Free for that. And what do you think about ADF? This is from Amber Squad. Well,
very important. This is very important.
Okay.
The ADF is a fighting faction on the ground. So the ADF, like the SOCADEF, like all the other defense groups, Tigers, SCDF, call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, Red Dragons, they can still maintain their names as their forces, but they can be part of the AMC, the Ambazonia Military Council, which is not a group. So even within the ADF, you have fighters that still are part of the council, but they are still ADF. So ADF, I don't think anything bad of them, but I think they should work together with all the other defense forces on the ground, because one faction cannot lead us to where we want to go. But working together under one council on the ground, and that council cannot be dictated by diasporans, because diasporans bring politics inside, and all the fighting between you hear in Batubo concerning ADF and the different forces, all those are instigated by the diasporans. So I think the diasporans should stay on diplomatic front with the rest of the world and leave the guys on the ground to come together and duty for the homeland. So I don't think anything bad of the ADF.
Okay, thank you. We'll take just two more questions. This one, and please be brief again, Mr. Foncha. They say, now that you've discovered the flaws of the IG, do you intend to join another group to foster the liberation of homeland? If yes, which group? I understand that Mr. Foncha already said he is just going to be an advisor. Power should go to ground zero. Am I right, Mr. Foncha?
Yes, I intend to join absolutely
Pardon?
no group. I don't have any intentions to join any group.
Okay.
But I have intentions to advise whenever I'm called or to assist if it's the diaspora on military diplomatic initiative.
Okay.
That is why people don't, if they pay attention, they will see something under my name sometimes when I write Ambazonian New Africa Coalition Front. It's a diplomatic front that is willing to work with any diaspora organization, but not to be part of any group. If Mr. Ayaba calls me tomorrow and asks me, what do you think about this diplomatic push? I will give him my advice. He can take it or he can leave it. Mr. Akwanga, the same. If Mr. Sako calls me, I will give him my advice, the same. But this revolution has come to the one where people want to originate ideas and they don't want the Ambazonian people to know that this person participated for this to become a reality. So we have a situation where self-centered and selfish individuals want to be the liberators by themselves. But this never happens in revolution. So I offer my services as an advisor and through my front, the Ambazonian New Africa Coalition Front. And I'm working with likes of.
Okay. Thank you for that. The last one will be, please, very brief again, we're 20 minutes past the hour. Will the AMC accept sponsorship from IG?
The AMC are Ambazonians. They are, as I said, they are not Nigerians.
Okay.
They are not Ghanaians. If IG collect money from the Ambazonian people, it's the duty of the IG to give to all defense groups on the ground. That's including ADF. That's including SOCADEF. The money is the Ambazonian people's money. And we are fighting for one country, one people, one government. So any faction, AGC or IG, collects money on the ground should support the groups on the ground. And if the AMC is a collaboration of all the defense groups on the ground, then it's the obligation of the IG and all the other political factions to support such a cohesive on the ground. It will be a shame for any defense or any faction, political, in the diaspora, to pick and choose whichever groups they want to sponsor on the ground. If so be, which means that political faction is creating a militia and a prospective and a projected military or political dictatorship state like what we are running away from the Republic. So if IG ever says they're not going to sponsor the AMC, they should keep that to themselves because we see where that is going. They want to sponsor loyalty on the ground and create a dictatorship like what we have experienced for the past 50-something years with the Republic.
Okay. Now, we want to apologize to a few upcoming artists that we had promised to help promote their work. Our technical team advised us the streaming will be terminated due to Facebook's copyright policy. Well, we promised that we will be streaming that on our app. On this note, we say thank you immensely, Mr. Nso Foncha, for honoring this platform with your appearance. Thank you for opening up to the people on same very sensitive topics. To our viewers, our extreme gratitude for your endless support and feedback. On behalf of the Cry Out Radio TV team, this is Theodore Ngumba saying our doors remain open and see you next time. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Foncha. Bye.
Thank you very much. Watana Wata, and the trajectory is good for us, and I think we're going to be liberating our homeland. And I render my service to support and advise any group, diplomatic or military, to help us achieve this goal.
And to round it up, this is a message to surrogates of all the different factions that if I'm behind the IG Today for accountability, I might also just be behind the neck. So like I said earlier, we are not backing any of these groups. We just want that power should go back to ground zero. And all this siphoning of money should stop.
Yes.
That being said, I've also reached out to Brado and a few of those people that some of them are yet to answer or give a response. But see you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.